Well, hello everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm going to turn off my phone real quick. Do you guys want to see a picture of my family? This is my beautiful family. Look at. Do you see this? That's my little Frenchie. Oh, turned off. I'm terrible at this. There they are. Look at this beautiful family with a Frenchie, my little girl, and my little daughter. Anyway, okay. That's not why we're here. We are talking about Valerie Bennett. She had a question about. So one of her friends or family members or somebody noticed that she has changed. There's a shift in her personality, behavior, the way that she shows up. It happens a lot to people in our community. They just feel lighter. People start to notice, and people start to ask, what you been drinking? What's your Kool-Aid? What's been going on? And what's are you using a new face cream? So you feel lighter, you look lighter. And a lot of times we know that we feel good and we know that we got something insightfully from the principles, but how the F do you explain this to people? Like that's where it gets really sticky, right? Because and before I tell you that, the reason that it's difficult to share versus knowing something shifted is because the shift didn't happen conceptually. The shift wasn't abstract, it was experiential, right? A shift happened experientially. It's not like you said, oh, because I found these three words, mind, consciousness, and thought, and someone instilled those three words on me, like my world exploded. That's not what happened. Something shifted in you. You opened up experientially and something shifted. After the fact, we try to go back in our memory, go back to what we experienced, and we try to regurgitate it conceptually or abstractfully. That's a word I made up. So that's the first thing to realize is that's why it feels disconnected. We experience something, and then we try to tell it, and it doesn't just have the same oomph. A very good example of that is when you go on vacation. Right? You go to Hawaii, you go somewhere, and you're just come back and you feel great. And when someone says what it is and you say, oh, it was the waterfalls, the waterfalls were beautiful. Well, it doesn't do it justice, right? Because now you're talking conceptually or in abstract about an experience. So how can you share the principles then and have someone see it for themselves? Well, if you got it experientially, you give them an experience. You get to let them see the principles in action. So for example, specifically, the person you spoke to said something about, well, you wouldn't just say it's all thought to someone who broke their leg. Well, first of all, I wouldn't tell people it's just in thought, right? That just, for someone that doesn't know what we're talking about, that sounds like nonsense. Like, oh, it's just your thinking, or when thought changes life. Well, you're jumping the gun, because that's not what got you to experientially see it. Maybe you heard that it's just thought, but eventually something seeped in for you and you went, oh my God, it is thought. But it took a while. It took some awareness. It took a little bit of digesting. It took a little bit of reflection to see that. So it wasn't the fact that you heard something and boom, it was like something opened up for you. So you got to keep that in mind when you're speaking about this with someone else. So the first thing, and I talk about this in my program, which I put a link in. I have to do that. It'd be selfish for me not to share my program to you guys. It would be so selfish of me. So that's why I'm doing it. Not because I need $147 of your money. It's because I want you guys to know how to share this. Actually, it's really true. That's really why I'm doing this. But with that being said, there is no program that shares it the way I do. At least I see that. At least I think that. It's my program. I'm a little bit biased. But here's the point. One of the modules in my program is be the question and not the answer. So instead of saying it's all thought, right? Because that's what you've seen. I would say if someone asked me, whatever it is, you feel good. Why is it? Say, well, I've seen things that used to look true for me, but don't look as true now. And then instead of them saying, well, give me an example, I'll say, well, let me ask you something. Has there ever been a time where you had a fight with your wife and an hour later it looked different? Now, why am I doing this? Because I want them to see the answer for themselves. I could give an answer, but it's something about them seeing it for themselves that changes it. So of course they're going to say, oh yeah, I had a fight the other day and I was going super hardcore with my wife and she was just a poo-poo head. But an hour later, I felt bad for what I said. So now the follow-up question is, that's interesting. What do you think changed within an hour? Did you read a book on psychology? Did you magically look up Google like fights with wives? A lot of times I'll be like, no, I just went on a walk, or I went in my car and went and drove to the store. And now you're getting into the principles, aren't you? Well, what do you think happened within that hour? I don't know. I just didn't. I didn't see what I saw when I was fighting with my wife. Well, when you say you don't see it, what is it that you're not seeing? That's a good question, right? Now you're sharing the principles, not showing them what the principles are. You are sharing a joint exploration of the principles. In other words, I put it on the person that's asking and flipping it back and getting it back on them to see the answer. It's a different way of introducing the principles. Now, I could say, well, of course I know what's happening. Thought is transient, it changes. And of course, within an hour, you're going to see something different because you're never stuck in the same thought you are wherever you're at. It changes, it moves, it's fluid. You're more aware at times. I could say all that stuff, but it's coming from me. It doesn't have the same smell, taste, doesn't have the same feeling to it because I've seen it for myself. What I'm doing when someone says, how is Hawaii? Instead of telling them it's amazing, I'm giving them first class fucking tickets to Hawaii. I want them to go there with me. What I'm going to tell people is I'm not going to do it justice if I tell you what I thought about Hawaii. I'm going to get you a plane ticket to Hawaii. Let's go. Then we can see it together. So when you're asking people questions, you're giving them a first class ticket to their own experience. They get to see it for themselves. They're on that plane. They get to land in Hawaii. They get to see, smell, touch, experience. And from there, they may get a shift. By being the question and not the answer, they get a first-class ticket to their own experience. They get a first-class ticket to mind, consciousness. They get to see how consciousness brings forth thought. They get to see that when they're not in that fight anymore, new thought comes and fresh new thinking is available. They get to see the answers that you already know. See, that to me is where the juice is. That to me is when you become a powerful teacher, a confidant, a partner, a lover, a connector, a human to another human. Because now it's not, I know something you don't know. Now you're saying you know something you didn't even know you knew. Now you're giving them the gift of seeing something they had known all along. They just didn't know how to see it. Right? Now the magic isn't on you. Now you know that the magic is on within everybody. And that's what the principles point to. Not the fact that I've seen something and you didn't. It's the fact that we all see and unsee things over and over again. But the thing that doesn't change is that we get to see that ebb and flow periodically, right? I get into a fight with my wife, I don't see it, but in an hour, I become aware of what I wasn't aware of an hour ago. Isn't that cool? That's a constant. That's the gift of awareness. That's the gift of consciousness, right? So now how cool would that be to tell, instead of me saying what I just said, you speak to someone and say that. Now, what happened within an hour? Well, I know now I shouldn't have said what I said an hour ago. Well, what's happening that makes you know that? I don't know. I just know. Well, isn't that interesting? Isn't that interesting? We just know when we know. Isn't that interesting that an hour ago we didn't know that, but something in us knows that we shouldn't have said what we said an hour ago? That's cool, huh? That's kind of cool. Now, you're not even giving them answers. Now, they're going to go home and say, Holy shit, how did I know not to be an ass to my wife? That's really crazy. What is it that they may come back to you a day from now and go, okay, I need to hold on. Let's this is really driving me crazy. Now you are in a discussion that's deep and fruitful. You're away from abstraction, you're away from concepts, and you're connecting heart to heart, you're connecting experience to experience, you're connecting soul to soul. That's when things happen. That's why Michael Neal, Jamie Smart, Dick and Bettinger, Jack Pransky, all those guys, George, all of them, I'm missing a lot of people, Elsie, they, Sid Banks, what does he say? He says it's not about the words, and we use that to tell people it's not about the words, and we use a lot of words to tell people it's not about the words. Listen to what they're saying when they're saying that. They're saying that because they're saying get out of abstractions, get out of telling people what the principles are. Let them experience it. The closest way for people to experience it is by questioning our experience. That's it. You can only be offended by someone else's abstraction. You can only be pissed off by someone else's conceptions. We get angry at other people's conceptions. Well, of course, if I had a broken leg, you're telling me it's all just thought. Well, that's an abstraction. Of course, you're not saying that. But when you're trying to prove the principles, the only way you can prove it is by being abstract. This is what I think it is. It's all thought. Thought does this. Conscious. Well, that's a lot of words. We get lost in words. But when you bring it back to them, they're not using words. They're going into their awareness to try to conjure up something to create words to explain what they're going to explain. But that moment that they're in their experience, they're searching for something, and it's not words. They're going to use words later. They're going to formulate or bring words or bring consciousness and thought into form eventually. But that split moment where they're in awareness and in looking for an answer, that's when the ping may happen. But we don't give people enough time to do that because we get so excited and we want to give people answers right away, right? Stop doing that. Stop giving people answers right away. Let them simmer in experience for a little bit. Let them simmer in it. Let them question their answers. Let them answer their questions. Let them do all of that in their own experience first. Give them that opportunity. And you may be surprised the kind of answers they may come up with. That is the perfect answer for what they were looking for. And on that note, folks, I'm going to go make myself some dinner. And I hope this was useful. Thank you. I'm getting a lot of hearts. And I hope this was valuable. I miss doing these with you guys. Maybe I'll do a Zoom call. If you guys want me to do a Zoom call, post a comment below. Maybe I'll do a Zoom call on this stuff and do like an hour Q&A and just kind of tackle all these kind of questions if it sounds interesting. That's it. That's all I got for now. Love you guys all. Thank you. This has been very long, 13 minutes, and I gotta go. I'm hungry. Peace. Salud. Bye.